of course, is bread and butter. That is really where he has made his career. But it is interesting because Victor is his most played, Ari's second most played this split. So they're not, in fact, banning those out. They're banning kind of more like historically what has been his comfort champs.
Yeah. I think also banning out the things that if you were going to lose, it might be because he got one of these control mages, game went late, he wins a team fight or something. With the Corki nerfs as well, you think maybe that's taking care of itself. We do see people trying to adapt the build. Does it still work as well with less AP ratios on things and whatnot? So maybe they think that takes care of it itself.
Well, I do like this first pick, Poppy, for Immortals. Very, very strong pick, like we were talking about in the last game. Really showing up as one of those top-level junglers that can do a whole lot of work, especially if your opponents have a bunch of dashes that they're going to be playing into it. Team Liquid going to respond, locking in the Seraphine.
Ooh.
There's going to be some team fighting on the menu.
Very likely farming Seraphine bot is my expectation for Hans. So now I'm kind of curious to see what the pairing would be. Are they going to draft the full bot lane here, or are they going to just hold that second pick for later? Of course, theoretically, it can go mid. People play some Seraphine mid, but much more commonly, we're seeing it not as support, not as mid lane. It is as the farming bot laner.
And I mean, Bjergsen is a team player and will always play whatever if they are like, here,
Bjergsen
we got
plays
this.
whatever he thinks wins.
It's also like, this thing's strong. Let's just draft it. We'll figure out where it goes later. All right, Bjergsen, there you go. Because Hans so far this split has not played anything other than standard AD carries, but it is very strong in the bot lane, the preferred position. So probably going to end up in his hands.
All right, well, we have a Gangplank locked in for TL and for Bwipo. That one's not really going to have any problem with Poppy. There's no dashes to block. You can eat the orange to get out of the wall slam. Kalista locked in for Immortal.
Ooh, and if you want to play towards bot, right? You know, I always think GP is so strong if you want to play towards bot side. It is going to be Kalista Nautilus, so very aggressive lane here. The answer to their enchanter is all in. We'll see what they're going to be able to do. This does mean, though, when you don't pick your top lane counter here, that TL is going to be able to ban away some of the more common answers. But most of the strongest solo queue picks against GP are ranged top laners, which people aren't really playing. Like, I think Kayle is incredibly strong, for example, in a GP, but not a lot of people are actually using that on the LCS stage these days. And when you have a focus towards bot lane, it's more likely to be a more kind of generic safe pick for Revenge top.
And Revenge also, well, he is willing to play counter picks. He is one of the riskier counter pickers in the LCS. And so if there is a range top that they want to go for, there are also a lot of range tops to pick from. And if you want to throw 2 bans and they get third on his list or something, maybe they're comfortable with that. It is interesting to see the Nautilus over the Renata, which is often what you pair the Kalista with. It's less lane dominant, but maybe better for killing the Seraphine if you just want to, like, at 6, have way more lockdown CC. So we'll see how they want to address that, because otherwise it's a little strange to see the Nautilus pairing.
Yeah, I mean, Renata is really strong for sure, but this is obviously the more aggressive option. It does give you your hard engage, because Poppy is not really hard engage, it's follow-up, right? So if they're not planning on drafting, I mean, PowerOfEvil is not going to play hard engage, and Revenge has not really been playing much of that. He has one Ornn game. That's the only thing I'd really put in that bucket. So I think it's maybe more of a nod to the composition instead of just the 2v2, because I agree. I think Renata in most cases is stronger in the 2v2. Fiora going to get banned out, though. Fiora has risen so much in priority in this split to the point where some people are just willing to straight up blind pick it. We've seen that, from Licorice. Revenge has brought it out once as well. So a couple of those split push top laners have been banned away from him. And if Teal want to play towards bot side with the Alistar, I mean, they already have their own engage. And when you pair Seraphine with a melee engage champ, it's very easy to get these long-range Seraphine ults, where Alistar's running forward, you ult through the Alistar into the enemies, and you kind of get that range extension, which can be really, really strong.
And TL's going to spend their last ban going after one of those picks that you pointed out earlier in the first phase, that PowerOfEvil has actually played more this split than the Azir or the Orianna. Ahri is one of those safety picks.
It feels like they just kind of want him to play Victor, right? And then have potentially a counter pick here for Bjergsen.
Well, I think it's a good call out too, given that after seeing the Kalista Nautilus, it's more early game oriented than you might have been thinking otherwise. So the Ahri is the thing that would enable this aggressive bot lane. If she can get shoved and roam down to the bot lane, this is something that you can kind of take out that roaming mid win con a little bit.
Ban.
Yeah,
so they're thinking this might actually be Seraphine mid, which is interesting.
They're willing to ban out the Draven because they're saying, okay, Draven can just stand there and chat fight Kalista and beat her.
Yeah, it's just a protection, because you did pick the less dominant bot lane. Like we were just saying, they didn't take the Renata. And so if the enemy team sees that and goes, oh, they just left themselves open to actually lose this 2v2, let's flex the Seraphine away, take the Draven, and actually just pub stomp them 2v2, then this is saying, okay, we don't want that to happen because we did not take the strong 2v2. It's kind of controlling for that, but again, it's not something we've seen played so far by Hans.
And Team Liquid is going to keep the flex power of that Seraphine all the way to the very end of the draft. They will go ahead, they will lock in Viego in the jungle there for Santorin.
Okay.
Immortals picking up the Sylas
into Alistar. I actually love that pick.
It's
that's literally all you need.
It's the best ult in the game to steal.
If Alistar is there, nothing else even matters. You have a really effective ult, but Seraphine is great, GP is great, so he does have some good options, but really you want Alistar every single time that is available. So I'm so curious to see what Bjergsen would look towards. I am still expecting this to be farming Seraphine bot, and just kind of the standard Gnar as the answer here. Again, range top laner is pretty strong in a GP. If you're not going to play a super aggressive melee, it's so hard to play in GP because it's just very easy for him to poke away at you, and you can't really play around the barrels.
And if you do play those range matchups, you do need to often send jungle resources up to protect it, and then you're playing to two opposite sides of the map. Exactly. So they're saying Kalistas are all in, kind of like, we want to play through bot lane a little bit here, and that's what they're opting into.
Well, with this very short-range composition from Immortals that has Kalista and Sylas and Poppy, Team Liquid say, all right, give us the Swain. The Seraphine goes bottom, Hans will be off a traditional AD pick, and Bjergsen on the Swain to control and combat this dive as it comes towards him.
And I think it fits really well, right? We talked about it last game. I thought it could have been a good fit for JoJo. Obviously didn't need it, EG Slam, but I do think Swain is incredibly strong against dive now. You can do the Imperial Mandate build, but you can also just go Leandri Zonias into these dive comps and just create so much space. It's a really difficult champion to deal with.
Especially with the Seraphine, there's those two units together just combined to make this annoying death ball where it's so hard to get away from if you start getting chased down.
Through GPLT as well.
It's hard to get to actually kill anyone with how much utility is available. So this is a tough game, I think, if you don't get a lead early on, and that's where the pressure will be on Lost, who was one of the people stepping up last week, had a great Kalista game, even in the loss.
Right, and that Kalista has got to be active. It's got to be aggressive early. If you pick Kalista and you're just playing the lane passively and farming, don't pick Kalista. I need to see this really get in their face and get them off to a good start, or I think it's doomed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think especially against Swain, you have to be playing from ahead of Swain. You want to get to that critical mass where you can burst through the enchanters, burst through that Swain healing. Pop it up there, Mark.
Tapping into the mic a little bit.
In the chat.
Joining in.
Mark's leading the charge. The claps.
I also have to say the PoE, Sylas, interesting choice, because he is traditionally a ranged control mage player and has been criticized before for his melee play. And so to see him opt into this, I think is speaking to that revitalized Immortals, that they have grown as a team and they can play these different play styles that are not just my Corki hit 40 minutes, which is kind of how they won with some good Corki play on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the past he's brought out some melee champions like Diana and stuff, but often to a lot of criticism.
Well, Bwipo has never been afraid to play the game the way he wants to play it. Let's go ahead and check in and see if he's got any advice for Kenvi as we start this one up.
What do I think about Immortals? I don't know what to think. I think they are a victim of what is like the status quo, which is, you know, your jungler should be able to do X and Y, your top laner should be able to do this and that, and every role, like that's what I think pro teams in general are strangled by, really. It's like, this should be X, like this should be like this, and then you expand, and then that should be like that, and then you expand. But if you get players that are specifically good at something else that's not the status quo, then you should just do that, man. Like, why do you get the player if he's not good at it? Like, what? That doesn't make sense. And I'm looking specifically at Kenvi here, right? Like, he's known as like a carry player, kindred player, goes on stage, plays Trundle. It's like, why'd you get him if you're gonna make him do that, right? Just let the guy go loose.
GM Bwipo coming in with the call. Square peg, round hole, not impressing him.
I also love that he's giving this SOT, and we're watching Kenvi walk out on the map as Poppy.
Yeah,
right? Like,
it's good editing.
He's like, what are you doing? Like, get him off these tanks. But yeah, I mean, Kenvi was really known as like a kindred guy. That's kind of his most famous champion. So I do agree it can be difficult when you're kind of trying to force to adjust to what is that LCS style, but they start enemy blue. They do steal that away, so can be set up for potentially here a 3 buff.
Yeah, really nice delayed invade where I don't think it was actually spotted out by Santorin.
No, they came through bot, I think.
Yeah, so
Thumbs up.
They might have seen them running in, but didn't seem to know that the actual blue buff was gone. Trying to control for that, but feels stolen away right there.
Oh, good buffer on the Q there from CoreJJ. Really nice timing to actually land the knockout of his own. Why that is important is that it actually prevents the Nautilus from getting the passive auto, which means that there's not going to be that follow-up coming through from Lost, because the actual hook knockup, I believe it's actually a knockup with the hook, is very, very short.
And if CoreJJ can keep doing that, well, then there's no window for Lost to be able to follow up. There's no opportunity for that Kalista to use the powerful early game and use that laning phase to try to bully these guys and stop the Swain Seraphine death ball from coming online.
So interesting, I did go back and look, and Team Liquid did have a ward to spot the invade, and so I like this from Immortals, also leading to a bit of a split map situation where they didn't have Santorin with much to do on the bot side. Yeah, you can run down and grab those 2 camps, but you kind of have to go top, and this allows your Kalista lane to push pretty freely over and over again, so already kind of opting into that win con like we were talking about.
Revenge underneath the turret here nice and early as Bwipo has control over the lane here on the GP. You can see some back pings coming out around that top side of the river there. Kenvi set up here in the bottom side as he'll be able to take this Scuttle Crab. Santorin's just hanging around, walking through the jungle, getting a nice scenic view of everything. Touching some grass.
It's funny because Kenvi hasn't gone to his top side yet either, so they're both kind of hovering around bot for each other with no camps. He did get the Scuttle Crab, though.
But I mean, this means Kenvi's actually pretty far ahead, to be honest, because he's crossing mid. He's going to try to double scuttle. He didn't actually use his smite there either. So Santorin basically has to make a gank work now, or he's just way down because there's double scuttle plus 3 camps on top side for him to farm. This is really awkward.
But they also got the vision of him in the river, so they know that he just has nothing to do right now. So a really good start. As much as you know, Bwipo was saying, "Oh, it's the Trundle, it's the Poppy. These aren't his champions." He's still start here.
Yep, absolutely starting out very well. You know, gonna be able to go back towards Krugs and take that up. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing really for him to do. So now. Immortals just have to play respectful, basically.
You pressed my mute button. You muted me.
What are you guys giggling about? You're over here.
He's trying to drink a water. He's muting me. He doesn't want me to talk.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I was done with your point, Mark.
I was sitting here trying to piece this together, figure out what you guys are doing, if I'm getting punked or something. All right, so mid lane, PowerOfEvil here on the Sylas. I really have a lot of focus on him this game because, as you rightfully pointed out, he has one of the strongest like archetype brands of anybody in terms of what he plays. He plays control mages, and that's it. And now that he's on the Sylas, he needs to be able to step up because if you expand to a different type of champion and suck at it, you're not making much of a statement.
Funnily enough, even if you play like 70% of your standard on other things, not straight out suck, but like you are so good at this other thing, people just go do that every single time, and you almost kind of pigeonhole yourself from the perception of others. And to be fair, you actually shouldn't do that. You should still have these things in your back pocket that you can flex to when it's the right time. Like you're saying, you see the Alistar pick? Yeah, they ban so many control mages just being like, this is what he's going to pick. He's going to pick Victor here. Yeah. And to have this in your back pocket is very important going forward throughout the split so that people can't just ban out your main things.
And I think throughout his career, he has had some times where he's willing to kind of make that branch out. But the problem is he's never, I think, actually convinced his opponents that like they have to respect it, right? And I think that is that missing part. You know, I don't mean that as flame. But like, you know, when you bring out this new pick, if you're going to bring out the Sylas and you want people to actually have to respect that in the pick ban, you have to really perform well on it to show people, okay, yeah, we do have to actually worry about this. And we'll see if he's going to be able to do that, because I do think it was a clever draft, but if you don't perform at the end of the day, the pick doesn't really matter.
Well, Immortals off to a nice start here. Yeah, the gold's pretty close between the teams. It's not like they're running away with any of these lanes, but Kenvi can easily secure that Drake there with a little bit of help that he got before 6 minutes. Mountain Soul for a little bit of extra defenses, nice and early. Immortals are liking this.
Yeah, and though the gold lead isn't huge yet, there's been a lot of control in their favor, and we were talking about the Kalista Nautilus combo being a little bit more level 6 oriented, and that's kind of true for Sylas as well. Now that he's hit 6, once that comes into the bot lane, there's a lot of very scary dives available for Immortals that Team Liquid will have to keep track on, get some good vision out to make sure that they can spot it coming.
Yeah, I mean, Poppy plus the Sylas are really strong at actually diving. You go down there, you steal CoreJJ's ult before he's even 6, you can use it to actually set up that dive. So, has the faith in Bwipo. I love that gif.
What does it look like? You have a lot of water?
I'm not sure I
Team
get that
Liquid,
one.
I guess, is the joke that he's got a lot of water.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a pun.
Okay, I get it. We should have Freak up here.
I was gonna say, Freak
We're not
got that.
equipped for this.
After
We need a quadcast.
a quadcast, and Freak's job is just puns.
Yeah.
There's only 3 headsets set up, so he'd have to just be on a stick mic or something.
Oh, it's their first wedding anniversary, and they're here at LCS. Happy anniversary, whoever you are.
People tweeting.
Wish you many happy years.
They're waving at us. I think it's those people over there. All right, congrats.
Hopefully we get to give you a banger game as a wedding anniversary present.
Yeah, and if you're cheering for different
present
teams,
would be a little bit late. Anniversary present.
The tweet didn't say their favorite team, so I'm going to guess they're Immortals fans.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's your default, Mark?
Yeah. Not going to answer that. You can't make me say anything bad. I won't.
All right. Okay. Game is still pretty even. Bwipo up here on the Gangplank, still having no issues whatsoever with Revenge on the Gnar. Back here in mid, Bjergsen and PowerOfEvil happy to just farm it out as well. Kenvi's Poppy, level 6 here on this one. Swain is often a difficult champion to really make moves against because of how defensively powerful his ultimate is. Revenge and Gnar can zone Bwipo away here, and Santorin is just right back to farming.
That said, I will say, you know, it's going to be the Landry's build, but in the early stages, you can burst down Swain for sure, because you don't get the flat HP on the ultimate like you used to pre-rework. It does obviously have the much longer duration, but if you can burst this guy down, he doesn't just have that flat health that comes out with the ultimate activation. You really have to survive a while to be able to kind of drain tank and get something back from that. A little bit of pressure there around mid isn't going to amount to much, but Poppy heading towards top side as they see Santorin bot, he's going to look for the Rift Herald.
Yeah, and even the scaling from the W and whatnot coming in, it takes time to get there. He's only got 2 soul fragments so far, so not a ton of just
24 health.
Nice fat HP bar coming in. But I mean, something that you can also just use for utility, running around, trying to interrupt recalls, dives that might be happening in the bot lane. You and I were talking about this a lot.
Exactly, we were talking about this on the dive, and this is something that I actually really want to see more of from Swain's in pro play. Is that, you know, if you put a couple points in the W relatively early on, you can actually really mess with enemy recalls, especially towards bot lane. But we'll see if is Kenvi gonna flash for it? No.
No. Bjergsen's fine. He'll walk that one off, finds a little bit of trade damage back onto PowerOfEvil as Kenvi walks through there. The Rift Herald in Kenvi's pocket. They'll have all the time in the world to use that one before the turret plates go down, so I'm excited to see where he's going to deploy that, if it's just going to be a play mid. Maybe he saves it for the next 2 minutes, tries to use it as a distraction for the Drake, so Immortals can keep stacking those. We'll have to wait and see.
So yeah, to finish the small point, but like, as you put more points into your W, it increases the range for Swain, and you can actually use this to interrupt recalls bot side really effectively. And it can completely mess the tempo of these 2v2 lanes, where people both take a recall, they push in, they try to go back, and you want to not get caught in lane after your opponent is reset and you have not. And Swain, if you cheat towards bot with a couple points in W, you can actually pretty consistently interrupt this. And if you do that, that can completely change how the 2v2 goes. So it's definitely something I'm going to be looking for as Bjergsen gets a couple more points in that W to see if he can cheat out towards those side lanes, because it often has way more of an impact on the game than it does to actually just chain it with your W, you know, your W and your E to get that extra little bit of soul and damage. It's way more impactful to help your side lanes.
Yeah, I think it's really about usage. If you are not going to be able to actually interrupt these recalls or whatnot, as we see Bwipo, bit of trouble.
Right as Bwipo was walking down into the river, Kenvi was ready and waiting. The flash, the Gnar, the attempt at the play, but Bwipo outplays it. Now he's got Santorin coming in to help him out here a little bit. Barrel's not really going to be successful there. Nice job from the Immortals getting away.
And it looked like they actually just chained that too fast, right? You know, the orange got to be used on both the stuns at the same time. The Gnar came through, the Poppy stun came through a little bit too fast. You've got to try to wait till he actually oranges out, then Poppy stun him, then use the Gnar wall up. Like, all these things here really layering. But it did, in fact, look like they just kind of double stacked and he just got out scot-free.
Easy escape there for Bwipo, dodging some of that pressure. Mid lane, first mythic of the game is the Everfrost for PowerOfEvil. Very effective. You can layer that together with Sylas' natural CC. And speaking of CC, bottom lane has CoreJJ eating some damage. As Lost and Ignar try to play aggro down here. There's a slight farm lead for the Kalista, but honestly nothing that a bot lane Seraphine is worried about.
And this is when Immortals needs to put their foot on the gas a little bit here with this Rift Herald, with the next Dragon up right now. Try to find a play around this bot lane or mid. I mean, especially given that your top play didn't just work out right now, but there are TPs to come in. So you want to try and find this kill, get the Dragon, make something happen here, because otherwise if Team Liquid just keeps hanging out, they're actually relatively good from there.
Especially because they already got that first Dragon, right? So grab the second Dragon here pretty quickly. You know, pull CoreJJ and Hanzama into a difficult situation if they were to try to contest it. I don't think TL will. I think they're just going to give this up. Because Core and Hans are not giving any windows in the 2v2. CoreJJ has basically, you know, timed his headbutt every single time there, or pulverized, I guess it is actually, every single time that Nautilus is hooking in, right? And been able to actually interrupt that very easily. Hans is staying very far behind Core, so there's not really any opportunity for them to find those all-ins. So you've got to staff objectives so that you can try to force them potentially here at this third Dragon to try to look for some sort of response. Cloud, I don't think that was what they were looking for. With this team comp, it is not the best.
Kenvi jumping in after Santorin a little bit here, but with Bjergsen being the first one to rotate over, Kenvi can't pursue that any further. PowerOfEvil also not a ton of mana to work with here. Bjergsen's telling the same story as Bwipo eats a little bit of damage from Revenge, but honestly not a whole lot. Still doing just fine. He'll be able to pick up this whole wave here underneath the turret, dropping the barrel. Kenvi coming up towards top, might have something to say about this. Bwipo just poking towards Revenge here. This Rift Herald was almost out. There was only about 40 seconds or so left on it, so they do need to drop it, use it just somewhere. And it looks like they'll try to take this turret as low as they possibly can up here in top side. Of course, not enough to guarantee the full kill, but at least they get the 2 plates. At least they get the guaranteed money. And they're still looking to make this move. Bwipo getting slammed here. A little bit more damage coming out, and it's first blood over to Revenge.
Nice move by Immortals bot lane. Like we were saying, they start getting proactive on the map. They, with that shove after the dragon, just rotate up to the top side, drop the Rift Herald. They're going to be able to grab this turret as well and keep funneling gold onto both Lost and Revenge.
That was actually great, right? I love the fact that they do this post-dragon take as well, so there's not any chance of a cross-map play. They'd already taken Herald top side. They take the dragon bot side. They immediately go top. Lost gets all the local gold off that, so just got 600 gold. Plus they got first blood on Gnar. That just skyrocketed them into the lead. 1.6k in the advantage here. There's some great scaling on TL, so they're not going to be sweating it too much, but it's these kind of moves that Immortals are going to have to make to continue ramping up the pace of the game.
Both Revenge and Lost up about 600 gold after that play. And like you said, with the dragon stacking in their favor, there's also a TP bot for Revenge right after, so not needing that in the immediate future and able to collect some farm and protect the bot lane turret to make sure that no extra gold really goes into Han Sama's pocket to punish that kind of play up in the top side.
All right, still 3 minutes before our next Drake spawn, so nothing really to fight over in the neutral objective game right now. Immortals, 1,500 gold ahead. Team Liquid, comfortable with their scaling. They've got some powerful picks. It's all about making sure that Immortals does not get off to the lead if they want to here with this Kalista. Still got eyes on PowerOfEvil, seeing if there's any plays to be made here with this Sylas. But honestly, gentlemen, we didn't get first blood until 13 minutes. This game is slow.
It's definitely slow, and I think one of the things that's potentially concerning is that while Team Liquid does have the scaling comp, and we are saying that's fine, there are also times in their losses where they seem to just be on the back foot and never do anything, and then the game just kind of ends at 26, 27 minutes because they've seeded everything. And Santorin was put on the back foot immediately, and he has covered some plays, but he hasn't been able to make anything happen for himself yet. And the entire team of Team Liquid, well, yes, it's only a 1k gold disadvantage, it's 2 dragons, it could quickly become 3, and then 4, and then Baron, and they never actually found their moment.
And that's to me why the big inflection point is the 3rd dragon, right? I think if they actually give up a 3rd dragon here at 16 minutes or so to 17 minutes, that is too fast, and they're giving over too much, priority and too much pressure to the Immortal side. And then I'm going to start really being concerned. If they can grab this Herald, this sets them up well for that 3rd dragon. This has become a pretty common 1-2 play. Take the delayed Herald, wait till 3rd dragon spawns, drop that Herald mid, use that to try to create some pressure to force your opponents to respond. You get the inside track on that dragon, you set up for it, you take that down. So we'll see if TL is going to be able to look for that sort of a play, because they do need to start challenging here. They need to make sure that they can get those item completions in. Looks like basically everyone has Mythic, and it's double Leandries, which you may be saying, well, why did they do that? But it got changed so the Leandries can actually stack, so you can have the double dot damage now. It doesn't just kind of like erase the other person. So.
Well, I like the fact that Immortals did not fight for that Herald since they didn't have the bodies there. They saw that Team Liquid brought all 5. They were dead set on getting the Herald, so instead they leave Revenge in the bottom lane. He's able to take down the 2nd turret of the game for Immortals, so they get that traded in response to the Herald take from TL. Under 1 minute now for that 3rd Drake. This is the moment we're waiting on. Still nobody near the pit, no vision control in that south side river for either team. I do expect TL to try to do something about this. I do expect Immortals to also be ready to scrap for it. This, I'm hoping, will be our first big fight of the game.
Should be something that Team Liquid want to stop. They do have that Rift Herald, like you said. I like the decision by Immortals to not really contest because they didn't have the TP to match, and you can actually just get the turret for free, which is all that Team Liquid's going to get with the Rift Herald anyways, on top of the fact that none of your turrets are low yet, so the best thing that they can use with this for Team Liquid is actually getting an into the river and able to get make it so that Immortals has to face check them.
All right, Immortals are the first ones in the river right now. That Rift Herald still in Santorin's pocket. CoreJJ, Hans, and Santorin all hanging out here in mid. Bjergsen coming up behind to join them as Bwipo needs to rotate over. CoreJJ going in. Seraphine ulti goes out. Kenvi's going to be your target here for the start. He's going to be taken very low, but he ain't dead yet, and he gets himself away. Team Liquid, dogpiling in the middle of everybody. There goes the disengage, and there goes Kenvi. It's 1-0 in the fight for Team Liquid.
That was a great fight for Team Liquid. That fat meatball composition you saw, there was a lot of damage thrown their way. A big Gnar ult, a lot of damage, a big Everfrost, but just not enough to actually punch through the health bars.
Oh, CoreJJ coming over the wall, looking for revenge, but now Immortals trying to strike back a little bit. Revenge about to drop. Bwipo barely stays alive as Immortals try to get away from it. Santorin's on the chase, going after Ignar, looking to see if the Spectral Maw can land, but PowerOfEvil saves his support. TL get 2 for nothing in this fight.
Man, such low health bars there as well. Bwipo barely survives. Core barely survives. And I think Immortals thought they had a really good chance to actually turn that because the Seraphine only connected on Kenvi, only hits the tank. Gnar is ready to go from revenge, but they just didn't have the follow-up damage. They couldn't burst them down. TL now winning the fight, taking the kills, slowing that stack towards Soul. And Core just goes immediately in. All of the engage combo used there only on the Poppy, but they are able to get so much damage on the Poppy that Poppy's pretty much out of the fight right before the ulti comes through.
And they even got the hook onto Hans by Ignar. Like, this was not a terrible fight looking for Immortals, where you see this not super clean engage that's hitting priority targets. You're kind of able to kite it out, but they're still able to kill Kenvi on the back end of that, just burning down, and there's just not enough damage for Immortals. And if this fight was one that Team Liquid was able to win pretty convincingly, it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hex Flash in there from Core sets it up on Revenge. Look at Bwipo's health so low, and all those spears in him. Lost, I guess, just didn't have the range for the Ren to finish him off, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean, if TL is winning that at this stage in the game with their full engage only hitting the tank Poppy, that is concerning for Immortals. You know, they have got to be able to compete in these fights.
This may be concerning as well. CoreJJ starting it off. Santorin and Hans ready to finish it, but Kenvi still barely running away. Hans Sama can't find him with the ulti. It didn't pass through a target, so it did not get the extended range. Kenvi just barely lives. 50 HP. He walks away from that one.
Barely able to survive, but with that tempo, Team Liquid are able to push, drop the Rift Herald, like you said. Herald's gonna finish this turret off.
No problem there. Doesn't look like they're going to commit to trying to give it a second charge into the tier 2 or anything. Lost can pick that one up for free, no challenge there. As Immortals have not been looking so great since that last fight. They had that 1,500 gold lead, but now everything has evaporated, and this is scary. And can I just say that I hate Kalista as a pick? I feel like every time we see her picked, I'm just, the amount of times that I am unimpressed far outweighs the times that I am impressed with this champion. I feel like, okay, you've got Kalista here, but she's up against Seraphine, and she just doesn't do nearly as much now that we're into this team fighting phase. Maybe Lost can prove me wrong. I will happily cast or curse myself if I can see this champion do something.
It's a tough game to do something because there's a lot of scary frontline who are all pretty much in your threat range if you're in theirs. You know, like there's just not any way to be safe and free hit champions, and they didn't snowball with the you know, Nautilus pick. So it is concerning. I hear what you're saying. Here's your copium.
All right, what do you got for me?
Last week in that loss to CLG, there was some good late game team fighting by Lost Kalista.
Okay.
And so if he can keep up that aggressive play, understand that like he needs to kind of risk it. Risk it for the biscuit.
Risk it for the biscuit. Let's see if they can get the kill on Hans here in the mid lane. PowerOfEvil. Nope, never mind.
That was not the wrong way, not the right way from Hans' ultimate. That was like
no, that was Sylas' ult. You're confused. That was the Sylas.
I don't think I am.
All right,
it's very confusing when both people have the same abilities. I understand the sale.
All right.
That was a. I don't know if that. I wonder. I will give a little bit of a defense. I don't know if you guys have encountered this bug, but there's a bug in League where if your mouse is moving towards your minimap and you casts it as though it's on your minimap. So it can be this weird thing where it's trying to like smart cast it.
Yeah.
Where I've had that where my mouse is actually not pointing that direction, but it tries to like pull it that direction. It does some weird things with the minimap. So it could have been something like that with Hans. I'm not actually sure. Either way, it doesn't end up mattering. Just a trade of ult there in the middle. But we'll have to see what Lost can get done as we are into a pause. It was worth a try.
Hey, we don't have to hear us talk about tech stuff.
All right, we're back. The mouse is fixed, and we are ready to continue here. 21 minutes into the game, 1.5 minutes until the Drake spawns. Team Liquid stopped that soul stacking from Immortals, so they're not incredibly worried about it still, but they're in the driver's seat now. They showed exactly how powerful their comp is in these 5v5 situations, so the pressure's got to be on Immortals to do something about it.
Everyone hates healing in this game, apparently.
Yes.
It's a lot of
Orb chainsaw.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Gangplank Chainsword is just straight up good now.
There's a lot of healing as well, to be fair. You have at least 2 champions in each.
They're not. Okay, now they are. Now they are.
Everyone's in the game.
Okay, now we're back. Welcome back. Okay, no more gas bags. All it's time for now is some good old-fashioned League of Legends. Team Liquid, they have 1 Drake less than their opponents, but remember that last fight, they clearly won it. Some low health bars on either side. Maybe Immortals think they got the sauce to be able to fight back here in this one. 30 seconds until our next Drake spawns. Nobody's in the river just yet.
But they do have better vision control for Immortals, so a little bit easier of a path in. hopefully they can find the engage onto one of the key targets. I mean, even though it wasn't super clean, Team Liquid was the one who picked that fight.
It's going to be really hard, though. Lost with no flash, and all summoners are available on the TL side. So I think it's pretty scary. If you actually show up and you get flashed on, you know, by Bjergsen, by Core, etc., it could be very dangerous. But it looks like they're actually down to just maybe give this, because they're actually sending everyone towards top side. I think it's a little bit of a strange situation, because I do feel the TL are actually in a really strong spot right now. And Lost with no flash means he very likely could have been killed off here, but they are going to just trade it for a top lane tier 1, which this late in the game, I don't think is valuable. So I'm going to straight up say it. I just think it's a bad decision.
It's definitely curious. I mean, there was good vision control for Immortals. I understand Team Liquid being a little scared to just like face check it. And technically, there were some item advantages. Like you said, the Gangplank Chainsword being finished.
Yeah.
There is the Ginsu's as well for the Kalista. So like, they're slightly ahead on items a little bit. And so maybe they're just like, yeah, with the vision and the item deficit and the fact that we already stole one of the dragons away, we can use this buffer. But it does put a lot of pressure on you in 5 minutes from now to make sure that Soul does not go over to Immortals.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, like, you know, like you're saying, they just completed a couple items. LDR comes through, Riley's comes through, so that's probably their call, is that we can complete these items, then we're for sure going to win the next one. But if anything goes wrong, it does get a little bit risky. And Swain is great at actually checking vision. You can use the W, you can check brushes with E. You have an Alistar to face check. If they engage on the Alistar with a Seraphine and everyone behind him, that's pretty dangerous. So either way, we'll see if this does pay off for TL. Kind of slowing it down a little bit. Going to be interested to see if Hans also goes Rylai's, like if they're both just going double Rylai's, or if it's going to be Demonic Embrace. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Rylai's on Seraphine, because, you know, the E unempowered is a slow, but Rylai's actually turns it into a root, and then if you empowered, turns it into a stun. So
very good stuff there as Bwipo and Revenge 1v1, and Revenge just clocks on.
Nice play by Revenge. They're getting a team an advantage. Team Liquid looking for something on the opposite side, but Immortals playing safe. That buys Revenge some alone time in the bot lane. We'll see what he wants to do with it. Or just take that little sack of gold, go back to base, styled on Bwipo a little bit, feeling good.
yeah, I mean, that's a big play, right? You know, it is a very squishy build here for Bwipo, but very high damage. And likes his chances here in this one-on-one. And just ends up actually, you know, a little bit of a face check, gets spotted, does get the bonus damage into the wall there. The wall up is layered very nicely. Connect on the Q, refreshes that, flashes away here after the wall up to actually dodge that barrel that was exploding towards him. Then the fadeaway with the final Q there. Really well played by Revenge. Yeah. Good layering, good resets on the Q, flashing out of the final barrel and landing his own Q. Gets him the kill.
That was stylish. I liked it. Revenge needs to keep that up. I want to see some more of that. Bwipo doesn't, but I do.
Did have to burn his flash for it, so it'll be a little bit harder to outplay. And with this team fight in 2.5 minutes, we'll have to see. Like, it's one of those plays which, if you went back in time, well, we'll see how it ends up happening, but you could be like, oh, you really could have used a flash Gnar in this team fight coming up. So never to say that the aggression is wrong, but like your team actually has to keep utilizing that, because sometimes if you just blow your one flash and you don't have anything to get on top of the Seraphine or anything else, then it can feel pretty bad.
Absolutely. And Bwipo didn't use his flash, of course. So he used his ulti, but he's going to have that back. But the big concern for me is that Lost is going to have his flash back now, so that's going to be a lot harder for TL to deal with. It's likely going towards a Wit's End. There is a lot of magic damage here. GP ult is a lot of magic damage. Obviously, Seraphine plus Swain. And I'm assuming that is what he is grabbing up next. Not going towards Hurricane, which is kind of much more standard. But Wit's End is really, really strong.
Yep. And we have Team Liquid with control over the top side of the river right now. That Spectral Maw from Santorin nearly getting the interrupt on the back, but Immortals not actually cost anything from that one. As Revenge is doing a really good job denying these barrels too. Even back in the 1v1 against Bwipo, like taking out that first barrel that Bwipo placed down. Yeah. He's got the timing on these pretty tight.
And man, that is so frustrating as a GP player when your barrels keep getting killed, especially late game. Your timing has to be really good against people who have high attack speed. It's very, very frustrating. Because it absolutely can be the difference in these fights. Immortals now setting up here around Baron a little bit. TL, of course, having some vision. Just trying to, at the very least, maintain vision in their own jungle. Just sweep out those wards every time Immortals steps forward here to really deny them access to that jungle.
And I do like the attention played up to the top side by Immortals. It's not the focus coming up in a minute, but if you ever just let your top side vision lapse completely, Team Liquid could potentially look for one of those Baron for Soul trades, and we're talking about the Cloud Soul maybe not being the most important thing, and you could argue that that would actually be a win for Team Liquid. So I like the idea of Immortals getting some vision down a minute ahead of time to make sure that if Team Liquid want to go for a trade, you can kind of spot that coming and maybe leak out extra people and just leave the Poppy or something on the Dragon, because that's oftentimes what you do if you can get advance warning.
Alrighty, Team Liquid, 45 seconds until this Drake spawns. It is Soul. If Immortals can claim it, TL didn't have too hard of a time stopping them on that third Drake, but now they're going to have to do it again after conceding the last one, trading for that tier 1. Like you said, Isaac, Immortals will be roaming over there as a team, but it will be TL who have control over the river first.
And it is a bit of a late base here from PoE. So you've seen a TP straight out to mid. Bwipo is answering top. He does have his ulti and his TP. And they're trying to get mid lane prio here. They're going to go.
All right, Santorin might just be the target here at the very start. Uses the ulti to get himself away, and a nice team fight coming out as Immortals are going to be locked down here a little bit. Bwipo going on a rampage, Revenge going down. Santorin suffers now as well as PowerOfEvil looks for more. He's still got the stolen Swain ulti, but CoreJJ is looking to take him down. He can't do it, and Lost grabs the kill. PowerOfEvil keeps on tanking, but he can't find the heal in time. Lost gets cut to pieces, and Bwipo ain't firing blanks. Ignar tries to get out, but Immortals have already lost 3, and it's about to be 4. Bjergsen just needs one more hit, and he gets it. Team Liquid crushed the fight.
Oh, they come through in the end. The initial part of the fight was not bad for Immortals, but PoE, it felt like way overextended there, trying to chase in for more. Gets turned around on, and his team is so heavily punished. Kind of reminiscent to the game last Saturday, that overextension for the Flash Ari charm where he was trying to go for that outplay where things really turned bad, because you watch the start of this fight and it's honestly going fine for Immortals. You know, when the rejection comes through from Kenvi, they're actually able to turn and get some kills, and from there I think they could have just gone Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, very slippery Viego able to get out of there, and CoreJJ kind of stuffs this initial engage, but it's going to be a pretty even trade after that nice ejection by Kenvi, so that they're going to finish off Santorin, and you're going to end up losing I think it was the Revenge who died first, and then that was the moment where you're saying, yeah, just fall back from there. You kind of got this zoning potential. You're relatively healthy, and you can maybe burn down the Dragon, and at least make it a flip at worst, because you have Smite and they don't, even though Kenvi is very low.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just felt like a big overextension. There was also some honey fruit in the river, so you could have picked that up and tried to heal off that, but back to live, we're fighting again.
CoreJJ in the stasis as PowerOfEvil and Kenvi look to take him out, but they're going to lose their own support in the process. 1 for 1 as Bwipo is knocked away, and Revenge goes forward looking for Santorin. He's going to be in the middle of everybody, but he barely gets away for now. They'll turn their attention back over to Bjerg. The double kill comes through to Lost, and Immortals got to be careful now. Bwipo's made his way back into the fight, and the barrels are vicious. Kenvi tries to disengage a little bit more. Revenge wants to kite it out. Bwipo goes unstoppable, and Revenge goes over the wall. Immortals trying to get everybody they can out of here. It ends up being a 2-for-2 trade.
Even trade overall, but you can feel how strong Team Liquid is in these team fights, always ending up healthier, always ending up with the ones chasing down Immortals at the end of that fight. It was a nice start to it, some nice wall stuns onto CoreJJ to blow him up before his ultimate came back up from the last fight, I believe it was. And then there was also a nice split of the fight where they were able to kind of redirect onto Santorin, but still, it just shows how hard Immortals has to work right now to win these, and they're doing their best, but it's obviously fighting an uphill battle.
I mean, it's the power of the Seraphine, it's the power of the Swain in these late stage fights here. It's very, very difficult when multiple rounds of healing and shielding come out. And this was TL actually trying to start it out here, right out onto Kenvi and PoE. The team not fully ready to collapse. Bjergsen was actually pretty far away. He tries to buy time with a stopwatch, but it's right back to live.
Every single time, the fights just don't stop now. CoreJJ tanking up here on the front line as PowerOfEvil's got to be careful. Seraphine ulti flies out. Nicely done from Hans. Revenge locked down, but now trying to get himself away as CoreJJ's ready to follow it up yet again. Another Poppy Hammer trying to get rid of the TL Chase squad. It's a 1-0 for TL. They've taken Revenge out of the picture. They have so much health, and they have Seraphine. They're going to the Baron.
Immortals just don't have anywhere close to enough damage to actually burst them down. With Seraphine, this is so risk-free. We'll see if Poppy can get over. Hex Flash coming in from Kenvi.
CoreJJ taken pretty low here. No longer has the ulti available to use, and PowerOfEvil's going to take him out, and now escape as well. Lost tries to stand and fight, throwing Ignar right back into the middle, but they got to be careful because Bwipo is godlike. Lost goes into the stasis, but everybody evaporates around him. A quadra kill to Bwipo, and Team Liquid gets the ace.
Bwipo gets his revenge against Immortals after that solo kill, obliterating them in front of the Baron and setting his team up so cleanly after a very long fight. So many cooldowns were spent that his ultimate was just massive.
11-2 now on the Gangplank. 4 items, has the IE. I want to see the damage charts for that fight and see if it was as crazy as I'm expecting. We can watch it one more time in the Bud Light Ace. TL starting up the Baron, it's very low risk because they have so much sustain, so much healing. The engage comes through there onto CoreJJ, but he's buying time for the team. And Immortals just simply do not have the burst to actually get through those Seraphine shields and get through all of this damage as Lost goes forward, trying to make a play happen here. Santorin gets the first reset, jumps into the body. It was a great stopwatch there to buy a little bit of time to actually dodge out on the hook, but just not enough damage.
And it was definitely a situation where I think they actually had already stopped the Baron attempt with a nice GP ult steal by PowerOfEvil. It got the kill onto CoreJJ and kind of forced them off Baron, and then Lost and Ignar decided that they could keep chasing, and that's where they, once again, just went a little bit too aggressive, knowing that they do kind of have to play aggressive because they can't just keep allowing Team Liquid to reset in these fights. So I understand the idea of always wanting more, but they just haven't been able to actually get it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think at this stage, they were probably feeling like that may have been the last hurrah here. It's very difficult at this stage. Seraphine now has a death cap. There's 4 items on Bjergsen. There's 4.5 items on GP. So they are just monstrously strong here. Unless something goes completely bad for TL, they should be in control from here. And it just feels like, Immortals weren't able to quite push the pace as much as they needed. The club around the initial take for Soul, going bad really hurt them. We'll see if they can hold on and try to make any sort of a miracle happen now, but all the cards are in TL's hands. Nearly 8,000 in the gold lead. They're going for a TV flank. This is maybe the last play.
Trying to make something happen down here. Ignar flashed out to try to get the ulti onto Bwipo to lock him down long enough. Bwipo now in a 1 versus 3, trying to stand and fight it. He brings down the ulti, but it won't be able to do much. He dies, but what is the cost? Back in the Immortals base, Nexus turret number 1 collapses. The rest of Team Liquid working together to get that one done. Immortals may have taken out that side laner, but that's about all.
PoE's looking though.
Backing away. PowerOfEvil coming around from the side, but he's all alone. Now Bjergsen going to be telling the same tale. He goes into the stasis, buying more time. Han Sama with the ulti, but it's not going to find the distance it needs. Lost, chain CC'd, and exploded. No way out for him. Revenge is going to follow shortly thereafter. Immortals, they wanted to use the 5v4. They wanted to find something, but Team Liquid is too far ahead. PowerOfEvil, stolen Swain ulti or not, it might. Okay, all right, make me a liar. That's all cool. That's all cool. Team Liquid, they're still going to get it done, though. PowerOfEvil, Kenvi. They're trying to get away. It takes a while.
They'll get him.
Yep, they're smacking him around. It takes a second.
Maybe they won't.
PowerOfEvil still escaping. That infinite duration Swain ulti as long as you got
double
target.
TP!
All right.
Get out of
They're
there!
bringing in the backup. Team Liquid looking to end the game here. 34 minutes in, 17-8. Team Liquid takes out Immortals.
Nice win by Team Liquid there. Slow and steady, making the right calls though. Waiting until they were finally strong enough to start contesting these objectives. And as soon as they decided it was their time, they basically won every fight from then on out.
Yeah. I mean, they just had a pretty good read on it, right? Immortals, I think, had that one chance, that final fight around mid lane, where if they went a little bit too far, they couldn't get Soul. I feel like they really needed to capitalize on that because TL hit that certain point. The Kalista had been outscaled, the Seraphine deathless in the game, the Swain deathless in the game, Bwipo a massive game through the side lane. It was almost full build by the end of it, was such a threat. And TL were just so tanky, played strong to their win conditions. I think CoreJJ was great with the engages in the early lane, really kept them safe in the 2v2 with very good buffer on the pulverize every single time Nautilus was coming through. So it's a win that TL can definitely be happy about. And it's a bit of a different style, because as you said, Hans had only really been playing marksman, so bringing out the Seraphine can be happy that he got a win with it.
And I'm glad that we heard from Bwipo before this game talking about playing to your own standards, because we saw him lose that 1v1 against Revenge. Revenge got the better of him, he outplayed it, but then everything after that was Bwipo like sitting up straight in his chair and deciding, okay, it's time to focus up. Like he was getting triple kills, he's getting quadra kills, like he was making everything happen. His damage output in those fights was incredible, and that's the kind of performances I think all of these guys on Team Liquid want to have for themselves.
Yeah, I think they showed that their approach to that game was right. We were like, is it slow or not? No, they were obviously in control of knowing when was the right time to flip the switch. For Immortals, I thought that still looked better than pre-break Immortals, where it was like, oh my God, they're almost getting perfect game left and right. Here, they were proactive through the early game. It seemed like we did a good job kind of sitting back and seeding objectives, even though, it was like, okay, two dragons down, Rift Herald over. I thought Immortals at least had a better game plan and were more proactive in executing it.
Absolutely. I mean, they 3-buffed to start, double scuttle, early jungle pathing was good. They took the first herald, the first 2 dragons. After the first dragon, second dragon, they swap top, they get first tower, they dive Bwipo. Like, they had a lot of things working for them. Compositionally, it felt like a bit of a struggle to have enough DPS to actually like overwhelm the Swain and the Seraphine.
Yeah.
And so maybe Kalista, making the difference there. But it's 3 games in a row that are at least promising for Immortals. They are making some serious improvements, but clearly TL still a cut above.
And as PowerOfEvil said before this game, like, they know that they're the underdogs in a lot of these matchups, especially going up against a roster where 3rd place is disappointing like TL. Like, this is not an easy battle. But we'll have to keep our eyes on Immortals as they continue moving forward. But Team Liquid were the ones taking the